We are interrupting Ellen this afternoon with new details on a developing story. Tucson Police Chief Roberto Villasenor.
I won't repeat all the basic information because I'm sure you have that, but the question did come up, when was the last time that they were in school or any record of being registered at school? We did check with several schools in the area. There is no record of enrollment. The statement about homeschooling came from the mother. We have no way of proving or disproving that at this point. No organization that we can check with to determine if they're following a predisposed homeschooling curriculum, or no records of that type in there, but that's just what we reported as to what the children's schooling situation was. There was a question about, was there also music in the second bedroom where the two younger juveniles were kept? Yes, it was. Similar type setup with a round of speakers all pointed towards the bed of the juveniles that were there. What the kids are telling us is that it was 24/7, either loud music or, in their opinion, if they showed appreciation or enjoyment of the music, it was turned over to static, and there would just be loud static directed towards the beds. And the question about how they got out through the window was not broken. It was open upon our arrival. The house in question that they were at on Estrella was set up with an alarm system. When the family moved in, it had that alarm system already in place in the house. However, upon moving into the house, the family set up 2 additional alarm sensors only on the doors of the juveniles. And they're designed so that if the doors open on the interior of the house from the juvenile rooms, then that would set off an audible, a very shrill, loud, audible alarm that everyone would be able to hear. The window and the exit doors were all part of the main alarm system of the house, but the bedroom doors were a separate system. In addition, the video surveillance was obviously set up by the parents, and that was set up just on the rooms of the juveniles. The cameras were focused on the beds of the juveniles, and they were on 24/7 from what we could tell. We did retrieve information, or excuse me, equipment from the residents, which we will be spending quite a lot of time going through to determine if anything from there covers what was captured by the video. The video was part of the monitoring system of the children and was useful also for when the children had to go to the bathroom. They had a prearranged signal that they would do, and I'm being somewhat vague here on purpose, so that the parents could see that the children needed to go to the bathroom. They didn't always grant permission, according to the juveniles, to go to the bathroom, but if they were, they would bring them out only one at a time. When they did, they had the hallway partitioned off so that you could not see past the hallway. They'd let them go to the bathroom, take them back, and put them back into the room. If they decided that they could not, this is according to the juveniles, decided they could not go to the bathroom, or they didn't see them giving the signal, then the juveniles had to use the closet to go to the bathroom. We did find several bags with a lot of clothing contaminated by human waste in the closets, also jars of what appears to possibly be human waste as well. The feeding occurred in the rooms. There was one set of plates left there. There was no cleaning mechanism. The juveniles were responsible for cleaning the plates. The young, and I'm going to quit calling them juveniles, the girls were responsible for cleaning their own plates. They were given somewhat of a goulash, is the way they describe it. Oftentimes it was like a noodle-based food with whatever thrown into it, sausage, meats of some kind, and a lot of oil. And then maybe later in the day they'd be given some fresh fruit or something along that line to eat, and then bread. The medical exam shows initially that their growth patterns are not that abnormal, but there will be further evaluations done, and we'll have a better knowledge of that in the future. Today, detectives have spent their time interviewing family members, to include grandparents and the biological fathers of the girls. Several of the family members were under the impression, being told by the parents, that the family was in California. There is no indication that the family has spent any extensive time in California other than maybe a trip a few years ago. But the girls were never available, according to one of the grandmothers, to talk, or did not ever seem to be at home when they would call, and that grandmother was under the impression that the family still was in California. The biological fathers of the girls were also under the belief that they were in California as well. They don't have much contact, they don't pay child support, and they really have not had involvement to any extent with the girls or the family at this point. We obviously have a lot of information to go through. We have several leads to follow up on and a lot of investigating to do, and we'll continue to do that. But at this point, I'll open it up to other questions you may have.
How many biological fathers?
There are two.
And where are they located?
That I don't know.
Which two daughters share the father?
The two younger daughters share one father, and the older with a separate father.
What sort of music was playing inside the bedrooms?
My understanding, mostly it was, I'm sorry, I don't know. We'll find that out for you. I don't want to guess at that. We'll find out for you.
Chief, did you say the video cameras were focused on the bed?
Yes, the video cameras were focused on the beds.
Would that factor into the sexual abuse charges against the stepfather?
Right now, the sexual abuse charges are based upon the interview and the statements of the girls, but obviously that's what we'll be trying to determine within our investigation.
Can you tell us more about the journal that the eldest daughter kept?
We don't want to go too much into the detail of that at this point, because obviously that's going to be an important part of our case, but it was it did contain a lot of information that I feel will be useful in helping us to determine what the method of and length of imprisonment was. It did document things such as the feeding. I mean, she even had it down to the point where it seemed like every couple of weeks there was a fresh batch of food brought in. And she even knew at that point when the food would be a little bit fresher as they started to come in.
Is there any indication, Chief, that that video was not contained to the house, that it was perhaps streaming elsewhere?
We don't know that yet, but obviously we would be looking into that.
Were the girls drugged at all or blindfolded when they were moved from house to house? Can you talk about that?
There's indications that any time, when the girls were brought here from Catalina, it was done so in a manner to isolate them. And a lot of the actions that are being told to us are really demonstrating the fact that the girls were being isolated in everything. The fact that when they were taken out to go to the bathroom, the hallways were shielded. It was kind of like a tunnel that they would build with sheets and partitions to take them directly to the bathroom and back. There's a sense of isolation and loneliness that was established for these girls.
Was Mr. Richter at all on your radar? He did have a domestic violence charge against him. He went through anger management. He's had several run-ins with traffic violations and such. Would this at all cause, and he had business from CPS, would this at all bring him to your radar at all?
At this point, we had no indications that anything like this obviously was going on. We would have tried to do something about that. Everything now is being determined with hindsight and focusing on an individual because of a specific incident. But there was nothing that brought him to our attention prior to this event in any abnormal way, more so than any other citizen.
Why was the 17-year-old kept separate from the 12 and 13?
We don't know that yet, but we'll be looking into that.
Can you say where the girls are now?
Well, obviously, I'm not going to say where they are other than they're safe. They're in a group home. They're together. We made sure that they are together. We didn't want to separate them again. Obviously, the expressions they made to each other, seeing each other when they were reunited, really brought home the fact that, they had changed in each other's eyes and the appearance that they had. And we definitely did not want to contribute to that of separating these girls again. And so we made sure when we did work with CPS for the placement that they would all be kept together and placed together in a home.
What happens for them next?
Well, obviously, there's going to be a lot of medical and psychological care provided. CPS will be responsible for helping them through this and to dealing with that case. We'll continue our investigation into the criminal aspect. Oftentimes in these situations, it takes a while, and it will take a lot of help and a lot of work by medical professionals, psychological professionals, to get the girls to open up and talk fully about everything that happened. You look at some of the high-profile cases that have happened across the country. I mean, earlier today it was, I think there was a question that was asked, well, the girls had the door locked from the inside, and it sounds like they could just go out the door if they wanted to, but something kept them from doing that. What is that? But you remember, you had Elizabeth Smart for 9 months walking around with her captors in public. Something kept her from trying to escape. She has talked about in interviews that until you've been in those shoes, you really don't understand, and you can't answer those questions. So I'm not going to try and guess why they did or didn't do what they did. Our role is just to provide the best investigation we can to gather the information to present our case.
To the extent you can, how much culpability do you believe the mother had? Did she fail to protect, or did it go beyond that where she was an active participant?
We believe that she has complete culpability, therefore that's why she was charged with everything other than the sexual abuse charge that the stepfather was charged with. They're both in the same household, they're both involved. We feel that she has a duty just as much as a father to care and provide for these kids, and so she's just as culpable.
Was there any indication as to why, I mean, did they ever say what triggered this, why it was, at least in their minds, or what their parents told them?
We haven't gotten to that yet. I think that things such as that will come out further in the investigation as we give them time to adjust, to deal with what they've had to deal with emotionally and psychologically. And they may never come up with a reason why. They may not know what triggered this. But we will be trying to determine that in our investigation.
Yeah, the mother had a telephone that had a San Diego number on it, so when she called the family, they would think that she was in California, and obviously you brought that up. Was that part of this elaborate scheme that you've uncovered here?
Well, that points towards that they were gone to great lengths to try and establish that story, and so that's obviously what we will be looking at.
Can you talk about the Richter demeanor when you guys arrived on scene, how they behaved, how they reacted to the fact that they were being busted?
Well, like I said, the father, he invoked, stepfather invoked, the mother did give us an interview. I can tell you, as far as their reaction, not too much, but I can tell you that when we entered into the room of the oldest girl, she was surprised that we were even there. The music was so loud, and she had no idea what was going on around her, that when the officers started banging on the door and opened the door to go in, she was totally surprised to see police there, had no idea that we were even there.
You said that the parents were homeschooling these girls. Did your detectives find any evidence of that?
Well, as I said at the beginning of the interview, that was stated by the mother that they were homeschooling. We haven't verified that, but we haven't disproven that. We've checked with local school districts to see if there's any record of enrollment. There is none that we can find so far, but we also have no proof that we've taken from the house that homeschooling was taking place.
You talked to the biological fathers this afternoon. Did they give you any indication that, or any reason why this might have happened, as to why the mother and the father might have done this? Have there been any indication of this in the past?
From what I'm told by detectives, there hasn't been much contact or interaction with the biological fathers.
Well, where were the two arrested, the mom and stepfather, when police entered? Where were they in the house?
I don't have that information exactly where they were at in the house.
I went to the house earlier today and I saw that there was a door, it looked like it was the older daughter's room that was broken in. The police had to break through the door to get to the girl.
Well, remember, the original call came in when the two youngest girls left and ran over to a neighbor and said that the stepfather had broken their door and was trying to get in, and they saw him holding a knife. And that's what scared them enough to run to a neighbor and disregard the alarms and any other consequence and run to a neighbor and report this. When they went to the neighbor, and this is one of the poignant parts, the neighbor asked them, well, where do you live?
Yeah.
didn't recognize them, and they didn't even know their address. So they had lived there for 4 months and didn't even know the address, didn't really know where they were.
Chief, I spoke to Fernando's mother late last night. She had no idea her son had been arrested, and she claimed that she'd seen the girls who'd been in the house 2 weeks prior. Any veracity to that? Have you guys backed that up or spoken to her at all?
We have spoken to her now. Initially, that we went over there and she did not want to speak to us, but later we did get in contact with her this afternoon, and we are interviewing her. So we'll be looking into that.
Why loud music? What was that for?
We don't know, but obviously I think that's part of the whole issue of how they set up the scenario and set up the whole situation.
Can you call it torture, Chief? Can you say what they did to them was torture?
I'm not going to use those words, but I will say that they did do things that made these girls feel isolated and made real sure that they didn't feel like they were in control.
Any indication that the father and mother might have used verbal threats of violence against these girls? In fact,
We don't know. We don't know that. Obviously, you know, that's things that we will be looking into and things will be going forward. Just a couple more questions.
Are the girls supposed to be confined to the beds?
I don't have any indication about that.
Is there a fund set up where people are contacting our station asking if there's any way they can help?
Right now, they're in care of CPS, and we don't have anything that we're setting up like that.
And did you say there was no CPS filed before today on this family?
No, I said we're looking into that,
Okay.
and
You don't know
we'll
yet.
determine yet where that is.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you all.
Thank you.
That's all the time.
Tucson Police Chief Roberto Villaseñor wrapping up a news conference this afternoon, giving us the latest information on 3 girls who were held against their will, apparently by their own stepfather and mother. This morning, the parents appeared in court. 32-year-old Sophia Richter, she is facing 9 counts. The stepfather, 34-year-old Fernando Richter, he is facing 10. That extra count is for sexual abuse. Some of those charges include child abuse, sexual abuse, and kidnapping. We will have much more on this story beginning at 5 o'clock. Stella Inger is at the home where the children were held against their will, children ages 12, 13, and 17. Much more on this story at 5, 6, and 10. We'll see you then.